And good evening, WNBA and women's basketball fans, and welcome into a fresh week of the WNBA 365 Network, your 24/7 365 comprehensive home for everything revolving around the WNBA and the rest of the women's basketball universe. Back with the folks again with our either our fourth or fifth straight show, folks, with only a two-man game tonight again, folks, as we've already alluded to again, but four of our starters are right now sadly still stuck on the bench with on the injured reserve list. Of course, Shorty Mamba 24 and Marquez Anderson are both working their way back still from being sick the past couple of days, and for about the good latter part of the last week or so. So hopefully we'll have them back sometime this week, and of course with Eric Nemchok and Reagan Patrick both attending to other things. Of course, with Eric still doing work for today's fast break. And also, of course, Reagan just getting a brand new job, or getting a new job, I should say, and we want to give her congratulations on that. But joining us, folks, again, like we said, again, for another night, of course, is Crystal Thomas up in Los Angeles, California, and Cal McClure joining you folks here in studio from Studio 171 in San Diego. Well, Crystal, it's tough to, play games when you're hurt or sick, and in this case where it's been us two the past couple nights, it's also been a little but hey, we've gotten through it, though. But how's it going tonight? Good to see you.
It is going well, just a little tired, but everything is all good.
And, of course, folks, like always, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are wide open for your commentary this evening like normal. Of course, it is at WNBA365 on both Twitter and Instagram. It's at Calimac3 and at Pup1010 on Twitter. And please include the hashtag WNBA365. Or if you are going to be viewing us live in the live this evening on the viewing page, hit up our live chat box, folks. Always open for your discussion in regards to anything revolving around the WNBA and the rest of the women's basketball world. Or give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/WNBA365. We're trying to build up our brand on both Facebook and Instagram still, but we've had some pretty good responses so far. And also want to give a quick shout-out to Whitney Knight from the LA Sparks, one of the new kids on the block this season, but also was recently, just before the show, the newest follower of the network on the network Twitter handle, bringing our grand total of network followers since the start of the season, folks, up now to 467 great Twitter followers out there. And, of course, we had a slew of followers on opening day. So I guess, Crystal, even before we even get to anything about tomorrow's games or what's planned or what's coming up on the horizon, but again, Crystal, here's another player, of course, in the WNBA, again, reaching out and, showing a little token of appreciation, I guess, to all of us here for the hard work and dedication we put forth, or try to put forth at least every night here on the network. So again, Chris, with another player following us, and like I said again, we had 15 new followers on the first day of the season. That included both LaChina Robinson and the president of the Indiana Fever. And now again, Chris, we've had more and more media folks engage, and again, players have engaged. So again, KT, to now again be up to 467 Twitter followers, including all the media members, players included. What does that say to you again about how we have really grown in these very brief 2 years?
I mean, hopefully that means that they're paying attention, that we're doing something right. And I think also it lets them know that people actually do care about the league, and that people are trying to make an effort to bring more awareness to the league. So hopefully they keep coming.
So again, folks, a shout-out from all of us here at the network, from myself, Crystal, Tanisha, Marquez, Eric, and Reagan, to Whitney Knight of the LA Sparks, of course, for being the newest player follower of the network. Again, and that drives our total now to 467. We're probably going to try to campaign to get to 500 sometime before the end of the season, but we'll hold off on that up until we get there a little bit later on in the year. With that, Crystal, we'll get to the more important news. Excuse me, folks. This morning, Crystal, and for everyone else out there, of course, we put out the third week of WNBA 365's Rank 'em Power Rankings. Through 3 weeks now, it has remained unchanged at the top of the food chart. It remains both Los Angeles, Minnesota, and Atlanta 1 through 3. Shakeups, though, 4 through 12, Chicago, New York, Indy, Dallas, Washington, Seattle, San Antonio, Phoenix, and Connecticut rounding out the 4 through 12 spots, with everyone shifting positions from week 2 of the ranking system. So, Crystal, and by the way, folks, as well, if you folks were wondering about the score, about the ranking points or ranking points scoring for the week, it was LA at 10 even, Minnesota 10.5, Atlanta 12.8, Chicago 15 even, New York 19.3, Indiana 19.5, Dallas 23.8, Washington 24.5, Seattle 25.3, San Antonio 26.5, Phoenix 27.3, and Connecticut at 34 points even, 33 or 30 or roughly 24 points off the top pace for that. So again, Crystal, like we said, obviously. Again, Los Angeles and Minnesota, as we said, they can be, 1A, 1B with them still being 7-0. Atlanta has really been a surprise, and then, Chicago's kind of come back. So, Crystal, through 3 weeks, and we've had the same two teams, between the Sparks and Lynx still being 1 and 2 in the rankings. Then we've had some shuffling of teams across there. But, Crystal, is there like any surprise, I guess, through 3 weeks of the season again? We've talked about Atlanta being a surprise, Phoenix being a very big surprise as well. Crystal, is there any real surprise though in your mind with our ranking system through 3 weeks that that kind of pops out to you? Maybe LA's also one though too, because I don't think a lot of people have them at 7-0. Off to this great start. But has there been like any surprise though through 3 weeks of what we've seen so far with what the computers have decided to go with for the rankings through 3 weeks?
No, I mean, the only surprise is still Phoenix probably being as bad as they are, but other than that, not really a surprise.
So again, folks, you can if you are wondering about the rankings, again, folks, you guys can catch those rankings again. They'll be posted by week in chronological order from the most recent on the sidebar on the homepage of the network website, which of course is WNBA365.wix.com/WNBA365. Crystal, getting to some of the games from Sunday in the WNBA, Indiana defeated Connecticut 88-77. Washington beat Atlanta 86-79 to stop their win streak. And the Liberty beat out Seattle 86-78 from Key Arena last night. So, Crystal, beginning with Indiana and Connecticut. Connecticut, Crystal, is really beginning to show some signs of, the youth and inexperience, of course, with this ball club. Indiana getting back on track. Crystal, the Sun now with a league worst record, still with 1 win on the season right now, and at the bottom, of course, or bottom again, I should say, of the Eastern Conference. Crystal, any final takeaway or thoughts from Indiana winning once more, but again, Connecticut still scuffling right now this early in the season?
Indiana's supposed to win that game. Like you said, youth pretty much is the reason why Connecticut is having an issue. I think if Connecticut was to have maybe 1 or 2 veteran leaders, they'd probably do a little bit better. But, Indiana was supposed to win that game. Indiana is not doing what we thought they would as well, being 4-4, but they're not doing terrible. They're still right up there. That was a game Indiana's supposed to win anyway. You don't think that they're going to lose to a team like Connecticut, and the way that Tamika Catchess played, you could tell that they definitely weren't going to lose. Like, she had in her mind they weren't losing that game at all.
And I think, though, that Indiana, Crystal, is really, they've been a little bit hot and cold, though, this year. They've been, a little bit inconsistent early in the season with so far in the season. Obviously, I'm sure, though, that in a very small case, or small cases, plural, that, yes, Catch retiring, Stephanie White leaving after the season has probably had a minor little, thought in the back of their mind, though. But I think they're getting back on track as well with them winning, big deal. And, of course, Connecticut, trying to right out the ship. Obviously, 1 win so far for a team under a new coach. Obviously it's going to take time for them to get, acclimated to that, to the system. But again, no real surprise again with the Fever winning by 11 just a couple of days ago. Going now to the Mystics and Dream, Crystal. So here's Washington back in the mix. Now, again, we've also have talked about them being, a little bit up and down and inconsistent in regards to what we've really seen from the Mystics so far this season in regards to them, still looking for win number 1 at home, Crystal. They've won games, but they've all been away from Verizon Center, and also them knocking off the top team in the Eastern Conference, and also a really hot Atlanta team. Probably, I'd probably call an early season signature victory or staple victory for a Washington club still trying to identify themselves so far this season. Crystal, final takeaway, though, from Washington knocking off Atlanta and stopping that very hot Atlanta start to the season.
For Washington, that was a very good win for them. Atlanta was, they came in hot. They're now, 6-2? They were almost 7. Well, for people thought they were going to be 7-1, but for Washington, that was a good win for them. I think that's a win that will bring their confidence back up, especially facing the East. Because Washington's 3-6. That's not what we were expecting. I think the fact that they lost Kara Lawson probably has a lot to do with that. But I mean, that was a really good win for them. That's a win that should boost their confidence going forward.
And Crystal, as well, we had really talked a lot of high praise about Atlanta recently in regards to how they, really have been, I still say, the surprising team so far through the first 3 weeks of the year in regards to how they, dropped their, lost one game. They were 1-1 and rattled off 5 straight wins to get back into relevancy. And again, with as many problems that we have talked about, either with the guard position or what have you. But, obviously, you're not going to win, go 34-0. But Atlanta, though, I still think is, a captivating, intriguing, surprising team, though, that we've really discussed lately. So, obviously, Crystal, it's one loss, though. But I guess what's your takeaway, though, from, again, about how Atlanta has really, put the puzzle pieces together to, put together, a team that, right now is still up top right now in the Eastern Conference?
Well, I read somewhere a while back that Michael Cooper said that for as long as he's been coaching Atlanta, this is the first team that actually looks like they enjoy each other. So I think that has a lot to do with it as well. I mean, I think when you have a team that likes to be around each other and a team that doesn't mind, being friends outside of the court, I mean, obviously you could tell it's working. They're 6-2. Chemistry is there. Something is going clicking. But I mean, it's losses. I mean, you're bound, like you said, you're bound to lose at least a few games in the season. I don't think anyone's going to go strictly undefeated, but it's very impressive. You could tell that whatever it is that they're doing, whether it's chemistry of the team, whatever it is, it's going very well for them.
Yeah, there's something different, I think, with this Atlanta ball club, Chris, we've seen recently with them, going forward at this point. And then also, Crystal, New York over Seattle last night, 86-78 from Key Arena, of course, highlighted, of course, by Kia Stokes' SportsCenter top 10 block last night on Breanna Stewart. So that's a little UConn on UConn crime right there by those two. But, Crystal, in regards, though, to, the Liberty, I guess kind of, they've kind of been middle of the road lately. They got up to, a pretty good start, kind of fell off, though, with a couple of OT heartbreakers at home. But getting back on track, and, of course, Seattle, a team that has battled in a lot of games they've played, though. KT, final thoughts on the Liberty winning in Seattle yesterday?
I mean, New York is they're I would say they're in the middle of the pack as well. I mean, New York is playing pretty well on time, so when LA gets them, they can hopefully be a little bit too tired to run up and down the outlet. It was a good game, especially that block from Stokes on Stewart. I think I watched that block probably like 10 times. It was amazing just to see the athleticism of how far the game has got. My niece was trying to say hi or something. Yeah, so it was a good game. It was very close. That lets you know that Seattle actually has the talent to be in close games. They just need someone or something to be able to finish the game. But Seattle has been in some really good games this year, and that was another one of them.
All right, Crystal, we're going to stop before we get to the games for tomorrow. We'll talk a bit about the big game tomorrow night between the Liberty and Sparks. Of course, there's a lot of meaning behind that game, but Eric actually wanted me to give a quick rundown of how the ranking system works. Again, folks, it is run basically off of a Excel spreadsheet on my computer, basically, but it follows a criteria of points put together by the macro-enabled spreadsheets where it can automatically calculate formulas for you. In regards to, again, it factors in a lot of things, so just kind of bear with me here as I kind of run through these analytics real quick. But it factors in the following categories in regards to overall team record, opponent's win-loss record, points scored, points against, overall win percentage, the opponent's overall win percentage, average points scored and average points against, point differential, and road wins and home losses. All that is put into one separate sheet, and then there's another one that I will probably put out for you folks to kind of get a better, a little clearer vision, I guess, of what it looks like. But in regards, though, it basically takes the score of a game and will input it into the database, and it will calculate a bunch of things, and it takes all these categories into consideration for it, and the final point total is based on all these. And basically, you can have, in this case with LA and Minnesota, like we said, it can be 1A, 1B. But in regards, though, that 10 points is better than 10.5, it is also based off of smallest to largest in regards to this criteria. So we'll probably, we will more than likely, folks, send out a photo just to kind of give you an idea of how this system actually works, in case anyone out there remains curious. But Eric, though, thanks for clarifying or wanting to know what it is. It's a lot to digest, but again, like I said before, it has been used, though, in other pro sports, so to rank, a league fairly in regards to, as we've already said. And Crystal, he does have one question for you, though. At this point through 3 weeks, who is on your all-rookie team so far this early in the season, and why?
How many out of all the rookies, or can I just pick a few? Like, how is this working?
Give us 5, since you have to have 5 to play the game.
Okay. Tiffany Mitchell's one. She's just been killing it so far. I mean, she's having a really good rookie outing. She's been very impressive. She might have been one of the steals of this draft. Definitely doing a good job. Breanna Stewart is number 2. I mean, do I really need to explain? I mean, she's just been, as far as rookie goes, Tiffany Mitchell and Breanna Stewart right now are neck and neck. If it was to come down to the rookie of the year, those two would be right there for it. They're doing an amazing job. They're making this year's draft class look pretty good. Since they were the top 2 players. I guess I could throw Mariah Jefferson in there. I mean, she's, especially for that play she had. I can't remember what game it was. I think you know what I'm talking about, when she set the game in overtime, passing the ball to Jana Pell on Jana Pell's birthday. Jana Pell Marinelli, I'm sorry.
First game of the year.
That was the first game. I couldn't. Yeah. In order for her to have nerves like that as a rookie, and in order for her to play really good defense on Chrissy Tolliver that game that they played. I mean, we all know Chrissy Tolliver's a pretty good offensive player. Well, better than pretty good. We all know she's when it comes to offense, that's pretty much her thing. And Mariah Jefferson held her very well. She didn't look nervous. She didn't look like she was scared. She looked really calm. There was no panicking in her. She's up there. I wish Morgan Tuck. I'll put her up there. I wish Morgan Tuck actually got to display a little bit more of her skill that she did at UConn. But I mean, at the same time, Connecticut is a young team. It's her first new coach, new system. Connecticut's still, pretty much a team that's building themselves up. And Kalia Copper, she's amazing. I've actually liked her since she was in college. Hopefully, would be really showcase what she could. It's unfortunate that Washington's kind of struggling right now. They're not doing they would. And 5, I'm trying to think who number 5 could be. Oh, Imani Boyette. How could I forget? Imani, I wish Chicago would play her more. I mean, Imani's definitely, if you guys can see the way she's been playing defense for Chicago, she's helped them a lot, especially during their wins. She comes in there and grabs rebounds. It's pretty good when they get her in the post. I mean, she always knows where to be on the defensive end. So that right now would be my top 5 rookies for right now. I mean, who knows? It's subject to change, still early, but those are the 5 that I think are really making an impact.
And going back to the chat box, Eric Nemchok wanted to throw one stat out for both of us, Crystal, about Jefferson. She's only turned the ball over 8 times in 157 minutes played so far this season, so a very good stat from one of our resident stat rats, Eric Nemchok. And from Todd Mintz, he said Sally was delayed by internet issues, but in regards to the rankings, he says he still feels Minnesota's number 1, as they have been generally more impressive than LA in its wins. Sadly, guys, while it may be impressive with how they've won, statistically, it doesn't come down to how impressive you look in the game. It's more so about the actual final score of the game and margin of victory, along with a lot of other factors. But like we said, it can be 1A or 1B for LA, and Minnesota jockeying for number 1 so far in the ranking system. And also in regards to from Todd about the Mystics and Dream game, he said he's a bit upset by Mallett and Hawkins, who stepped up to help Meesman, combined with Hayes for Atlanta. Having off night could have meant upset in his mind for the Mystics and Dream from yesterday. 2 games on the schedule tomorrow and 1 really big game that we'll talk about. Well, actually, they're both big games. So they're pretty much rivalry matchups, both one beginning at 5 o'clock and the other one beginning at 7 o'clock Pacific time. Crystal, tomorrow is the third and final matchup of the year between the Mercury and Lynx from the Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The game can be seen on NBA TV or Fox Sports North Plus due to a Twins game on FSN tomorrow at 5 o'clock PDT, 8 o'clock EDT. So, Crystal, the third and final time the Lynx and Mercury will hook up until potentially, perhaps, but right now it does not look like it will be a postseason matchup due to the new schedule format. Only 3 matchups with everybody this year. So, Crystal, Phoenix needing to get back on track, going to one of the, outside of TSRA or Staples Center or the Garden, one of the other tougher buildings to play in the WNBA, of course, Target Center, and of course Phoenix as well, KT still scuffling, getting blown out on recently in Seattle. Crystal, is there any obviously thoughts here, but is there any luck for a 2-5 Phoenix team going into Target Center tomorrow night to face a unbeaten and pretty deadly Minnesota team tomorrow night in Minneapolis? What do you think?
I mean, there's always luck. I mean, even though Phoenix is not doing so well, you have to remember Minnesota can't really, for some reason, towards the ends of games, they get kind of sloppy. And we've noticed that with the last game. I want to say it was Seattle. I can't remember exactly. There was a team, I think it was Seattle. The game was actually a lot closer than it was supposed to be. I can't remember the team it was, but Minnesota has this. It could have been Indiana. I can't remember. It's happened twice. I'm not really sure, but Minnesota, they get too comfortable. It seems like when they're playing certain teams because I think over 7-0 and could just come in here and dominate these teams. But lately they've looked real beatable. As if any team, I'm not just saying Minnesota is the only team that looks beatable, but Minnesota looks. There's a couple of things that they should probably fix when it comes to the ends of stretches of games. But I mean, do I think Minnesota's going to win? Definitely, but I feel like that's going to be a close game. I think Phoenix does have a chance as long as Brittany Griner can get more involved than she's been getting in the last couple of games. As long as Candace Dupree can start trying to figure out what's going on with there and get involved in the games, and as long as Diana Taurasi doesn't turn the ball over and actually plays defense and doesn't take plays off, I think Phoenix has a chance to beat Minnesota. But unless, if none of that happens, then Minnesota's definitely winning this game.
Crystal, this is a make-or-break game in my mind, I think, for the Mercury tomorrow night in Minneapolis. With them sitting on a 2-5 record, if they drop one more game, and as bad as they've played recently, I think that perhaps, and while it is still 8 games in the year, Crystal, and I know that some people may jump down my throat here, but I think that there may be some type of chess, that there's going to be chess pieces in motion, I think, for Phoenix sometime soon. If this losing skid, in this, kind of like, undisciplined and half-hearted effort continues, I think, for PHX going forward, because what we've seen out of this team, of course, a lot of people, GMs included, tab them as the champs at the get-go. Well, it's why they say that championships aren't won on paper, and that's a good reason as to why the Lynx, I think, are going to win this game once more. Is if Phoenix continues to have disconnect in regards to how they played recently. The Lynx could easily win this game pretty handily, I think. But if Phoenix does show up though and play like they played on when they won their first game against the Mystics last Sunday, then they may have a chance to win. But if they keep playing half-spirited or half-hearted basketball, they may be in trouble. And of course, playing in Minneapolis does not help their psyche either, in my opinion. Crystal, one quick question though from Eric, in your mind, who has been the league's most improved player so far in your mind, and why?
League's most improved player. I have to really think because it's still early, so I'm trying to. And I don't know. That was a good question, Eric. I'm gonna have to keep watching the games. I mean, right now for me, it's a little bit too early to tell. But ask me that question like 2 days from now, maybe next week. But right now, for me, right now, it's too early to tell.
Okay, so Eric's favorite question for Wednesday night, or say it, or ask it, or say it again next week when we're back on air. And also, Crystal, to bank off of your idea in regards to your all-rookie team so far, Marquez Anderson does pop in and he says, Stewart, Jefferson, Powers, Mitchell, and Copper as his 5 for all-rookie team this early in the year. And, of course, Crystal, the marquee game, and I think in everyone's case tomorrow, Liberty and Sparks to celebrate the 20th season of the WNBA, the unofficial 20th anniversary. Of course, the first game played on June 21st, 1997, between those same two teams. So, Crystal, more than the preview and thoughts, Crystal, of course, this is a milestone game for the WNBA. Of course, you have the two original teams that kicked off this league, back in '97 at the Forum in Inglewood, not at Staples Center, of course. A game that the Liberty won pretty handily, I should say, too, in the first tip-off of the year from the Great Western Forum in Inglewood. So, Crystal, this is, more than the game, I think. You're going to have, Rebecca Lobo in the house. Lisa Leslie's going to be in the house along with a lot of members from that 97 Sparks team, including Penny Toll, of course, the GM, and also Tamika Dixon, a legendary LA figure as well. And, of course, Rebecca Lobo is going to be there calling the game with Ryan Rucco on ESPN2 tomorrow. Crystal, this game, in my opinion, this goes beyond the game. This goes about, celebrating, what we've seen over 20 years, of course, with these two clubs that started this league, that were the foundation for the WNBA and for all these players that we're watching now play, like Bird and Catchings and DT and, and now the future generations that are going through. Crystal, with this being more than the game, what does this game mean to you, though, as well, with you being a basketball player as well, knowing that these two teams started this whole league, with the first ever game back in '97?
Say Marquez, that was asking about Aerial Powers. I didn't know. It was just, she was close up there. That was just for this week. And to answer your question, I think it's a lot. This is one of the first games I was ever played on TV, and to see how far the WNBA has gotten. 20 years for a league that many people didn't think would last that long. Amazing. This is the two original teams who pretty much started it all are still here. And a lot of you may know a lot of the teams that were in the league folded for, multiple reasons. But, two original teams are still in the league. And 20 years later, who thought this league was going to be as big as it was? Hopefully, last another 20 years, hopefully the pay scale will be better. But, this is just going to be an awesome game to be attendance in. And I'm just happy that, these two teams are still a part of the league's history.
And also for our friends that are Mercury fans, you will be able to celebrate your 20th anniversary on Thursday night when the Mercury take on the Stars. They will have their 20th celebration game Thursday night versus the former Utah Stars, now the San Antonio Stars, of course. That will be played on Thursday night at 7 o'clock from TSRA in downtown PHX. Including a pretty nice Cheryl Miller bobblehead giveaway for the Mercury fan base on Thursday night. And, Crystal, as we kind of think about this, though, with this being, like the, kind of being like the 20th season, the 20th season celebration week, of course, you have the Liberty and Sparks playing the, kind of like, rekindling the first game magic. But then you have, the former Utah Stars playing the Phoenix Mercury on Thursday night as well. So, I guess, Crystal, how about your overall thoughts about the entire week sort of being 20th season celebration week? Of course, you have the Liberty and Sparks playing, and then the original Utah Stars now in San Antonio playing the Phoenix Mercury. So technically, all four original teams are playing, a team that they opened their season with or played against back in '97 during this week. How about, how special is that, do you think?
I think it's cool. I would love to see throwback jerseys or something. Like, I would love to see like an old Stars jersey or like an old LA Sparks jersey or like the old Liberty jersey with the little black shoulder tips. I would love to see that. I would actually love if the WNBA, because of its 20th, season, I would love to see at least one game with throwback jerseys. I think that'd be pretty but and like I said, it's just, I think it's cool. 20 years. Who thought this league was gonna last as long as it did? And I feel old because I'm 3 years older than the league, but it is what it is. I just think it's cool. Nobody really thought, especially a women's league, nobody would have thought that it would have lasted this long. A lot of people thought it was a joke. A lot of people still do think it's a joke, but guess what? It's here for 20 years. The league is older than a lot of people's marriages. So I think that it's cool that it stuck around for as long as it did. Like I said, I hope it sticks around for 20 more years, and I hope that, more cities and more teams will soon be added to the league to make it a bigger league. But, I'm happy with what we have now, and I'm glad it's still here.
Yeah, for one night, let's have the Liberty and Sparks wear their uniforms, so we can have the Mercury wear that burnt orange from 2004 or their home whites from '97, and give the Stars those Utah jerseys from from year one. Okay, Chris, we'll get to let's just get predictions real quick from you for both games. Again, you have Phoenix and Minnesota, New York and LA on the mini tomorrow. Who you got?
I think Minnesota is going to win, but I do think Phoenix is going to make that game close. I think if Phoenix, if Diana Taurasi can play without turning the ball over, if Griner can get some rebounds and get big down low, if Dupree can start, contributing to the team, I think that Phoenix will win, but Minnesota by a little bit.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm going to
Trevor.
agree with you, Crystal, in both aspects. It's almost like, anything you can do, I can do too, or I can do better in regards to how LA and Minnesota have had this cat-mouse game so far. It's like one team wins, the other team wins, so maybe we'll have 2 8-0 teams after the first, after tomorrow ends with that, though, folks. Up until tomorrow night, it'll be a late-night edition of the WNBA 365 Network. Back tomorrow night as Crystal will be at tomorrow's game for the 20th season celebration. But again, folks, tomorrow, Phoenix, Minnesota, and New York, Los Angeles, and of course the Sparks and Liberty will celebrate the legacy and the continued growth, and will celebrate the historic 20th season of the WNBA tomorrow night from Staples Center in downtown Los Angeles, California. With that, folks, up until tomorrow night for a late-night edition of the program, for Crystal Thomas up in Los Angeles, this is Cal McClurg signing off from Studio 171 in San Diego. Until tomorrow night, folks, have a safe night. Drive home safely. Thanks for hanging and joining us tonight, and good night. This has been the WNBA 365 Network. See you folks right back here tomorrow night for a late-night edition of the show coming up tomorrow night. Till then, folks, good night. Bye-bye.